Hey guys, welcome back to another listening pleasure edition of the TA report. It's June 4th, Sunday night, about 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. It's your boy Bags and GP and JFDI. We're here to break down some market whatevers and some chart whatevers for you tonight. But guys, I gotta say, what a week last week. There was some moves, right?
Yeah.
Like we just look at these candle. I jumped ahead to the Dow Jones, but coming off of 2 consecutive weeks of plus 3% moves, and then we had a little week down, a wick lower to start the week, but it ended really strong. So not quite 3%, about 2.5% this week, but it felt exuberant, I must say. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Nick.
I think we're just getting started. I'd love to see I think anybody that has current positions on, I think would probably love to see like a little bit of a pause here. But like that's like the spiders are kind of just pushing into that 430 like zone,
Yeah,
which I think we should be expecting a little bit of pause there. Especially with how hot the Qs have been. But I mean, again, the IWM's just getting started.
Got started. Yep.
Yeah.
Only if someone saw that coming.
If only.
If only.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe I guess probably what's more than likely in store is just kind of some money rotation. I would imagine.
Speaking of rotation, shall we talk about what's rotating? But
yeah.
before that even happens, I think let's just talk about price action, right? So maybe some of the bears have turned bullish, but basically everyone is still
or some of the bulls have turned bearish.
Huh?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, go ahead, GP. Sorry.
Yeah. Even to this moment, everyone's like waiting for that moment, waiting to short the crap out of the market, right? Like this is going to be that moment. It's still we're bullish short term, but we're bearish because it's going to all reverse and give it back. Yeah, good luck. Because what we're just talking about is rotation hits the name. So you may get rotation out of mega caps, excluding Apple and Tesla because they seem to operate in their own world. Maybe there's exclusions otherwise as well. But
Apple's right at all-time high.
Yeah, but it's leading into an event, and 99 out of 100 times every Apple event is just a sell the news event. Maybe tomorrow is different. Maybe it's not. I saw some ridiculous calls going out a few weeks to like 230, and I'm like, okay. I've never seen Apple really move that fast off of one of these type of events, but hey, it's possible. But there's rotation. That breadth conversation, the massive one that so far, what is it? We're never going to break 4,200, where our breadth is terrible. The TGA is going to drain our liquidity. The Fed is going to raise rates. Inflation is going to go nuts. Bank collapses. Small caps not participating. Okay, I have 8, 9, 10, 12, 400. I don't know how many reasons I can give you on what is happening, but the reality is your price action is telling you that none of that stuff matters, and until it does, why fight it, right? Like it's miserable. You'll lose hair, you'll lose brain cells, you'll gain a few pounds, You're gonna drown yourself in ice cream sandwiches. It's just gonna be, it's not gonna be fun for you. So take a moment and reassess what you're doing, right? And I love I'm playing long right now, but I have short puts. I'm short via puts in October, and I'm like, okay, so it's long, and you want to stay long, but you're watching your puts get destroyed. Why not sell and just assess?
Yeah, no doubt.
I don't get it. So, it'll just come one day. That's why okay, fine. Whatever works for you. I have been pretty damn steadfast for a really long time that
Yeah,
we've been
you have.
sideways, and leaning bullish, and we're still sideways and we're still leaning bullish. So yes, maybe some names start slowing down and other names participating, but my gosh, look at Boeing. This is a Dow stock.
Do I
right?
have to?
Yes. Look at the
Fine.
monthly. Go to the monthly on this. That is called some weeks tight or some months tight. It had the double bottom retest. It is literally, I've already posted this chart, and now it is starting to break out of its monthly flag higher, not lower. So that seems to be that your breath conversation is going to be, you know what I'm waiting for? I am waiting for what else they can come up with, because that's the better unknown. What else is going to crash the markets?
I mean,
Yeah.
you are our big believer in volume, GP, and the volume's not really there in Boeing. But there is a little bit slightly higher green than there is red in the volume there.
Right. But look
If
at
you
where
look
the
at the
big volume
monthly
is.
though, a lot
Look
of
at where
the
the big
volume
volume
was
is,
on that.
and what have we done since? I think that's the bigger thing on a monthly chart is like, where was the big volume? And we've literally been sideways for what, 2 years? We're just kind of coming out of the pandemic stuff, maybe 6 months. They diluted the hell out of their stock. Their 737 still miserable, and the price is telling you that we've been consolidating, right, to see what happens, and now it's starting to break higher. So I don't know. And then look at Home Depot. Look at what Home Depot did on the weekly.
Yeah, Home Depot had one of those FU candles, I think, on their earnings, right?
Caterpillar did too.
We've talked about those a few times. This was the earnings. Oh no, sorry. This was the earnings week.
Yeah. So what is it? This is consumer
And it
based,
got
right?
bought right back up.
Home Depot, and look at those wicks right off the bottom, right? It's not
Yeah.
just this 3 weeks, but when it double bottomed, it
Right,
is.
there's earnings.
Yeah, it's just the conversation so far, like your thesis, every single one is starting to break down, right? Like, and yes, maybe you might be right at some point that it's going to break down, but I would wait for it. Signs usually show up.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we've talked about as a group is there's no reason to be a hero and try to step in front of a charging train, right? But we know that JP Morgan has their collar on, and the upper part of that spread is 4,300, right? I think it's 40. I think it's 4,320. Do we really believe that that's? I think it's going to serve as a magnet. Do we really believe that price over the next month is greatly going to exceed that, or is it probably going to be roughly that 10% downside or anywhere in between that makes that trade more profitable?
Catastrophic events are once in a lifetime events, right?
No,
Like,
the downside they have, right? The black swan theory, that's their
Yeah.
hedge. Their spread is basically from like 4,300 down to like 3,980 or 3,890. I'm dyslexic, so it's one of those two numbers, but it's roughly a 10% range. And then they have the downside. The main downside is their hedge, right? So do we think it's more likely that SPY goes through that 4,300 or it stays within that 10% range? That's their
I think it busts through. I'm in the camp that it's going to bust.
I think everyone's going to be hesitantly long and surprised with the moves that happen. Can we get pullbacks? Can we get daily moves that are FU candles? For sure. This is the market. It's been happening since I started in 2009. It's going to happen way past where I'm gone. It's really part of the conversation. I'm assuming VIX expiration and June OPEX, which are big because June OPEX are part of the quarter. The half annual OPEX are usually pretty like big institutional level monies, right? So lots more support. And I believe the VIX expires actually after OPEX. So if you're shorting, I think these are opportunities to buy the dip over the next week and a half. And by probably next Wednesday, I'd be lightening up. Like if you're uber long, I'd be lightening up uber long positions or putting on hedges or whatever it is, and looking at where the rotation takes place over the next 7 days, 8 days.
So it's got to be 38.90 is the bottom part of that, because that's 10% down from 43.20, which I know is the top of the range. So, I mean, that wouldn't be the craziest thing to see price go sideways in that channel, right? Like, come on. We're going to bust through 43. All right. So just so we're on the record, you two are saying we're higher than 43.20 at the end of June.
Yeah. I do.
43.20 on the SPX or the
on the SPX. Yep, on the SPX 43.20.
Let me look at the chart. By end of June exactly, or tags at some point.
Like I think it's going to tag it. Nick's in the camp that it's busting through 43.20 by the end of the month.
Yeah, I think that we're heading somewhere between like 45 and 4,600 is kind of where we're.
And to be clear, I'm not saying that we go all the way down to 38.90. I'm just saying that I think that price is more likely to test the top of that range and sort of be somewhere in the middle of that range.
I don't think we break 41.70. If
you don't think we break 41.70,
if you're correct and we do kind of go move range bound or head range bound, I think we end up. Actually, I take that back. I think we end up holding 42, about 4,200 is what I think we ended up holding.
Okay. GP.
So the SPX hit. Let's just walk through this because I don't really look at the SPX. You know that.
Yeah. I know.
So, the high in February was 41.95, right?
In February.
February this year.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we spent the next 3 months pretty much going sideways, right? Down, up, down, up, down, up. And we are literally just breaking out of essentially 3 month. We tested it last month. We couldn't close above it. And now we are coming through this kind of pivot. Most likely taking out these highs, and especially if it takes out 4,300, you're probably looking at closer to the 4,600 top of the range. I can't make the decision whether by June 30th we don't go back to like 42.99 and then July 1st we go to 4,500 again. Like I can't make that by end of June, but as of now we probably will be above 43.20, if not a bit higher. If I was a guessing person.
Okay. I'm gonna take the other side of the guess here. I'm gonna say we're somewhere in the middle. I think we could be anywhere from, I don't know, that 50 EMA on the weekly looks like a pretty sharp bet. It's roughly 5% from 4,300. So I'm gonna say somewhere around 4,000, 4,100.
Okay.
From there. Again, that doesn't mean that we can't go up and kiss 43.20 and come down. I just don't think we're going to end the month above that. Happy to be wrong because you guys know I'm long, but I just think with these moves that we've had on the Qs and now SPY's getting going, that the SPX is getting going. I think we need a little bit of a breather, a little make the portage just right.
Okay.
That's me.
Yeah, I hear you. So I initially thought the Qs would hit for 351, whatever that big gap fill area is, right? And have a pretty nasty kind of rejection, right? And it kind of did fill that gap in it on Tuesday of last week, and then had a rejection, but it wasn't nasty by any means. And then it kind of reversed higher. Now it's pushing higher, and then so the 61.8 retracement, and now everyone's talking about a weekly hanging man candle. And I was like, can you please take some time to look at a chart? Please, 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 because weekly hanging mans and uptrends are not what you think they are.
I was gonna say.
Like it's apparent that you don't look at a chart often enough. You see one candle and you talk about it like it's golden.
One of these things is not like the other.
Yeah, so there's been many weekly. So if you actually there's a guy that I like his charting, and I like his statistics, Thomas Polkowski, right? He has a website. It's called thepatternsight.com. This is no promotion. It's just where I spent a lot of time and learning. I get nothing out of it. He backtests this theory of a hanging man. And do you know what his outcome is?
Pretty bad.
59% is bullish. 59% of the time on a hanging man is a bullish continuation.
I thought it was just going to be some like percentage on a bad chart pattern, but no, it's 59% bullish is pretty solid.
Yeah, so but supposedly it's a bearish reversal, right? But nearly 60%. I can tell you that Vegas would take those odds on their blackjack or any other thing at any point in time.
Oh yeah,
if they're winning 60-40.
1000%.
Yeah.
So it's just the technical analysis.
So we don't think that there's going to be a black swan event. Well, we're not going to zero. We're poking through the Bollinger Bands, I'm told.
Oh yeah, those two, right? Gosh, there's so many bear theses.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I'm doing a bad job needling you guys because it's hard for me to play the devil's advocate when I don't fully or partially believe what I'm saying. But anyway.
So to me, right? So if I'm looking at these charts, right, price action so far is bullish. You're starting to see the rotation that I've been talking about for months now, right? What was it, end of March? We had 291 of the 503 S&P stocks green for the year. People still talking about 5 stocks causing all the gains. It was like, oh, if you take these 5s out, the S&P 500 is down 3% for the year. And I was like, then it's not the S&P 500. It is the S&P 493. Right? You can't just take out stocks and make up your own theories on what's going on.
Oh, well, you totally can.
You totally can if you want 100,000 followers, because that's
it happens every day.
Yeah. And I think leadership tends to shine in the beginning and ends of markets, right? And I also think it's the same for crap companies. Meme stocks tend to shine at the end of a bull market and at the beginning of a new bull market, right? Because people are doing their short covering on their massive wins, so they can then put their money, think about this logically, right? And then put that money into stocks that they want to be long, right? Oh, I was in SpaceX at $22 and I shorted it. I'm up 90%, so I'm going to cover here. And look, Verizon's down 89% and it gives an 8% dividend, so I'm going to throw some money there, right? So it's typically how it happens. But anyway,
so the VIX has been smashing lower, right? It's in that zone where it likes to pop up. Dixie is still hotter than I'd like to see, and it's recaught all the weekly moving averages. It has made a higher high in recent weeks. I don't know, like again, everything just sets up for me to be like, this is a moment to pause and reflect, sell in May and go away. I'll see you in the fall.
Dude, it's June.
Now I know it is June. May passed. You should have. You've had 3 weeks to sell.
That's probably the case. You're probably right.
You know what I'm saying? You've had 3 weeks to take some profit. Personally, like I'm still long a lot of names, but I've got more cash than I've had since March of this year. So I'm happy about that. I'm happy to put it to work if it seems like the right place to do, but I'm not just talking it, I'm walking a little bit. Like I'm not 100% invested right now. And we'll see where that cash goes in the coming week. So maybe we just rip straight to the moon, and I'm going to be sorry that I sold anything, but I have a feeling that I'm going to be able to pick up some dips.
Question is, what's the dips, right? Are these the small dips, or are these the ones that are buyable, right? Like, are you buying a 5% dip on a stock? I don't know if I am.
Well, I mean, if for instance, I sold some Labu that I have been profiting in greatly. I sold some yen, which is the China 3X ETF, which I've been profiting in big. I didn't sell all, just sold some. And if I get, 5% pullback in either one of those names, like, sure, I could buy it back. If I get a 10% pullback, I could buy it back.
Yes.
So we'll see. I'll still be positive money if it's down 5 or 10%.
Yep.
So there's things that I can buy or put money back to work. I mean, the IWM we just mentioned at the start of the pod, right? Looks great. Would it be crazy to see the IWM pull in another $5 and give me another chance to buy before it breaks out? It might not happen, but it could.
Nope.
I can watch and see if it does.
You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13
11
months.
straight weeks
13
of being
months.
in a range. Yeah.
13 months, and it just reclaimed the 10-month moving average.
Yeah.
It is already, day 2 has already broken the prior month's high after a doji and 2 inside months. Inside of the breakaway gap, if small caps crap here, yes, the market dies, but it's based on the charts. It's most not likely happening, because what do you see? You see,
but would $5 less on IWM be small caps dying?
$5 is pretty.
It definitely shakes some. It definitely shakes some. I don't know, whatever.
I mean, $5 from here is at the top of this range of weekly candles.
Yeah,
what, down to like 179, like 178.
I mean, I would almost view that as a retest of the range. Right? Am I right or am I wrong?
Dude, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
There's 11
7,
candles
8,
right
9, 10, 11 candles, and it's still breaking out of the range, and you're already asking for a retest. Maybe it happens. Maybe you're right. You just got the weekly MACD cross up.
If it doesn't, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's an opportunity. It's something that we all think looks really good, right? That's my point. That I'm sitting in cash that I could deploy into that on a small pullback that we all like and think could go higher.
Yep.
Is that flawed thinking, Nick?
No. I mean, the way I'm looking at the IWM though, like if it dips below 179, 170, mid 178,
yeah,
I'd be under the assumption that it's heading back to 168, because I'd look at it as a breakout failure.
It's a gap failure too, right? It's not just a breakout failure. If it closes below that gap, you have bigger trouble. So what I'm saying, Bags, is that it might undercut the gap a little bit, but if it goes $5, it's probably going to break the bottom end of the range, and you don't want to get long. That's my Yeah,
Friday's candle opened at 177.45. That was the low. Sorry, that wasn't the open. It was 178. So if we came back and retested the bottom of this candle again, I feel like that's a retest of the breakout, right?
Well,
Now,
no,
if it
I
goes into
wouldn't.
175, then yeah, that looks completely different than 177, 178.
179 is where I would consider the breakout.
All right.
so 180.39 is the high of the gap fill, the gap down here. From the crisis, right?
You shall
So
add an
if-
alert, Nicholas. There we
if
go.
if you were watching on Friday, that's where the IWM started to struggle, right? Like that's the gap, and then into the close, it obviously started to take out and take off from there. So to me, a retest of that gap, maybe slightly lower, $1 at the most, I would say, is okay. But anything more than that, I would start to get concerned that there's a bigger pull going to happen here, right? And that's I wouldn't be getting long if it's a $5 pullback, because
I like Nick's 179. I'll take a $4 pullback.
Sure.
And
I
the
mean,
pullback
yeah.
also has to have confirmation, right? So Bags, if you get the $5 pullback and it gaps up the next day, great. But what if it continues lower, right? What if it gaps down another $5? Then what's the game plan in those conversations?
Yeah,
right?
I think if it breaks those EMAs, then you're out. That would be my stop.
Yeah.
Right. One set below 177, and it's poo poo.
Yeah. And so now you also have a weekly 10 SMA move now start rising. It is just starting the move. So any pullback, whether it's $1 or $3 or $5, is most likely going to get bought up anyway, to be honest. Can we go back and talk about your dollar concerns?
Sure. I wouldn't say it's
DXY or
concerns.
EAP?
I think it needs to start chilling now.
Yeah. So I also think
Go for it.
oil is going to fade.
Would that be a
this
3-week
entire
tight,
gap up, by the
Nick?
way. We'll talk about that in a second.
On the
It's already
dollar?
fading, but
I mean, it looks like it, yeah.
Dixie monthly, right? The dollar monthly is where I normally start.
The
dollar
DIX
monthly, huh?
Yeah, I got you. I heard you. Sorry.
Yeah. So if you add in the 9-month moving average on the Dixie,
The 9-month
no,
moving
you're on the
average.
weekly 9-month moving average.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you guys for a sec. So my bad.
The
There
9
you
or
go.
10-month moving
The
average.
9's the blue line.
That's the blue line. So it's been kind of consolidating and bear flagging into a now curling down 10-month moving average is what I have on my chart. I don't have the 9. I use the 10. But
And I use the EMA, not the SMA.
yeah. So if you use the SMA, it is now curling down for the first time in nearly 2 years. On the month, you have a monthly MACD cross. I think weekly reflexive rallies are to be shorted in the dollar until it can reclaim that monthly moving average. But now you have it sloping down. So you should be looking to short the dollar until that changes. And right now it's not going to change. It's been in a downtrend since, it's been sideways for about 5 months, but the slope is down now. So from a monthly perspective, it's bearish. And then weekly, it had its reflexive rally. I still think it breaks down. It's just taking longer.
Nick, was that 3-week tight? I couldn't hear you on that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
On what?
Well, actually, no, because aren't we just opening the?
Correct. It's a
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so
an
no.
up
We haven't
candle,
closed the week. Yeah, you're right.
and then
We
you
haven't
have a
closed the week.
rejection doji candle. So out of a rising wedge, if you want to call it. So yeah, it's not 2 weeks tight. It's a breakout rejection, And so this week's move will be important, right? If we break higher than the rejection, then it's probably bullish. But if we break down here, it's probably bearish.
GP, I'm guessing you heard about the oil cuts. Are you surprised that the Saudis are going to continue to cut production in oil? And all of a sudden, oil's up almost 1% today.
Oil will probably be red by the time we wake up.
Are you not surprised?
I am very surprised that they are forecasting their lower demand straight in your face, and you keep calling it bullish.
I don't.
Like, Jesus, like, so go back and look at history. Every time OPEC has cut, it's because their demand sucks. It's not like their manipulation price. They see it. They see their demand. The recoveries are not going everywhere, and maybe the adoption to EVs is a bigger impact than you imagine. Dude, you can get a Model 3 in Tesla right now on their existing inventory in most states for $30,000.
30 grand.
30 grand, which is on par with like what used to be an economy car, a Civic, and Camrys, and literally you have potentially this tipping point, right? Where does it make sense? Like so New Jersey here, we also don't have a sales tax on buying new vehicles, right? Which typically is 6 to 7% in most states. And so if you're buying a $30,000 car, you're also getting an additional $2,800 save, $2,100 saving, $2,400, whatever it is, right? Depending on your state taxes. That's huge, man. You got a car under 30 grand that you don't have. There's no maintenance. So maybe oil is also seeing the impact of the adoption of EVs. I know oil is used in everything, not just cars. I get that. I'm just saying, like, they cut because they see production issues. I mean, consumption issues, not because they're manipulating prices.
Hey, Nick, you plan on getting some oil here? You plan on getting some energies?
No. I think no.
You're off that, huh?
I can't wait.
I enjoy watching GP and MBG kind of battle over their energy theses. I mean, I think we break down further, like in the energy, like individual energy names. Like I think we're starting to work like basically like a third leg down. I think ultimately and longer term, I think we end up holding and kind of correcting from there. But that would just kind of play into, I think, Banana Brain's theory, in that we're basically range bound in the energy market, like in the energy markets. So let's see where, can't find my chart. So like, I think
but that's like a Head and Shoulders. I can hear, if this were the Qs or the SPY, I can already hear the bear triumphant victory here of Head and Shoulders.
In the XLE?
Yeah, on the XLE. Sorry, I was on the XLF.
The way that I'm looking at like the weekly is I'm basically looking as like November 2022 is basically the start of the first wave down. Then we have a second wave down kind of beginning in February of 23. And then April kind of started our third leg down. And we're holding a trend line right now, but I think when it cracks, it's going to crack whether or not. And I think I think we find like a longer term bottom, like mid 60s, 63 to 65, 66-ish. Below, beyond that, I'm not gonna speculate, but that's just kind of where I have like a longer term measured move.
I forgot to mention, sorry, Nick, it just dawned on me. There's a Fed meeting next week.
Oh. Aren't they gonna raise like a quarter? Or isn't
No,
the
they're
expectation to
they're
raise a quarter?
it's what they're calling it now is the bearish pause.
Oh, interesting.
Added to another list of things that well, this is not a pause, this is a skip.
I think it plays into my middle of the range trade, actually.
CPI's before that, right?
I think so. Yeah, it's on Tuesday, right? And the meeting's on Wednesday, or the
In terms of the
Powell will
FTX
speak
you're
on
talking
Wednesday
about?
next week, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken.
So if CPI for some reason pushes up, I think they probably raise, but what if CPI comes down significantly, right? That the monthly, I think rental and housing lags 12 to 14 months on a indicator basis. And that's what the Fed tracks. So we're just at that 12 to 14 month mark. We saw some pull back into the prices, right, of rent and stuff. Shelter is what they call it. What if that's a meaningful leg down in the CPI right before the Fed meeting, right? Like, is that a sell the news event? Is that, yeah, I'm waiting for the bears to give me their theories because I can't come up with the theories that they come up with. I don't even know where they come up with them. But that's one potential kind of, absolutely, as you were saying, is one potential pivot that can really, and that's going to be data dependent at this point, that can really put a dent in the short-term bull theory. Because if that CPI is higher, they most likely won't pause.
Yep, I agree with that. It's we're going to have 10 days of what I'm going to now dub the Hulk Hogan market. What you gonna do, brother? What you gonna do, brother J Powell?
Yeah.
So,
So-
anyway, sorry, I meant to bring that up when we were talking about obviously what we saw for the next month in the market. But I digress. We've got a whole bunch of people here with us tonight, and we've got a lot of charts. If you guys want to look at some other stuff,
Yeah, let's do it.
So someone on Twitter asked me to please discuss Tesla.
yeah, Tesla's a popular subject.
Does that chart need any more explanation though? Is the better question.
Moo.
Yeah, so
all
think
purchases with the first number of a 1 last week were brain geniuses. In my humble opinion, this is not financial advice.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Anyone who bought last week that had their buys with the number beginning with a 1, so something in the 100s, congratulations.
Yeah,
Because
Boom.
you're breaking out now.
correct. And I think you essentially at the bottom in Tesla, you had massive volume, right? And then you essentially had a Morningstar reversal pattern with those 3 candles, right? And then you had a kind of a double top consolidation after the 100% move higher. And then it had almost essentially the same exact Morningstar type reversal pattern right at the 50% retrace of the move higher, right, from the lows to the highs. And now you're starting to break out. It is just starting, in my opinion here. And I think it's going to be powerful.
Yeah.
Elon already warned you about 3 or 4 weeks ago that he's refocusing his energy on Tesla, moving away from Twitter, hiring a CEO. He's telling you he's getting serious. He's telling you to be cautious about continuing to short. And if you don't take his words, the price is telling you now, right? Like if you didn't listen to that, the price is telling you. It is the highest close in Tesla since October 24th week, 2022. So what, 8 months?
Over the course of the year, it has only had 6 days that have had above average sell volume. Like in terms of like, because basically since end of January, it's been in that range from basically 140 to 200, right?
Yeah.
And there have only been 6 days of like barely above average sell volume, considering how much
And
volume
it looks
was put
like
in
all
when
of
it
them but
bottomed.
one were in January or February.
Yeah, like I'm in the same camp. I think I think 260 near term is not out of the question. I think ultimately that gap is going to act as a magnet near term is kind of what I'm shooting for, or what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and the optimistic side of me, pending all kinds of market collapses, I believe Tesla will most likely take out all-time highs by the end of the year. That's what I believe.
Woo.
That's not how I'm trading. It's just what I believe.
Well, I'm going to be upset if you're wrong. So
Don't be wrong,
Don't be-
GP,
yeah.
ever.
So here's my, like, I made this comparison to Baba, and Baba is obviously nothing like NVIDIA, but Tesla and NVIDIA almost nearly the same exact charts, right? Off the bottoms at 100 and whatever, it went haywire. In 2 to 3 months, it doubled. NVIDIA, right? October bottom at 1 whatever, and then went to, what was it, 190 or 2 something, right around there, by the end of the year, and then came back from that level all the way back to the 61% retrace of that move higher, right? And this goes back to what I was talking last week, is I think almost every chart outside of a handful of names had a full reset in technical patterns in 2022. So a lot of this stuff, yes, you can look left to determine right on where things are going, but I don't think this is part of the existing kind of technical moves. I think this is now starting its own waves, and depending on what company, what stock, right?
I think
NVIDIA obviously is the leader in this conversation. That these guys are now starting their I guess newer sets of technical patterns, and so NVIDIA looks very similar to Tesla, but Tesla actually only did a 50% retrace, not the 61-point retrace. So it's technically powerful, and NVIDIA went from 140 to 420 from mid-January to mid-May, end of May. So if the patterns, and this is why I think it takes out all-time highs, and I'm happy, you know, I'm been long for years, so I'll wait it out. If it doesn't happen this year, next year, whenever, right? I personally think that Tesla is going to be around for a long time, and they're going to continue growing. But if you have something similar to NVIDIA, if not more powerful, then you got to think about what the move could be in the next 5 months, right?
One thing that I noted on Stock Twits at some point last week is charts that retested their 50 EMA, and then once they came back and went higher, over the history of not just Tesla but most charts, when that happens, there's usually a powerful move at some point to the upside. That doesn't mean it's up like NVIDIA is however many percent. But I'm kind of with Nick. I think somewhere in the it's at least going to 250s, in mid 250s probably, in my mind. I just think that there's too much going for it right now. And when you get the technicals on your side, like being above that 50 after, you know, failing it twice in a row earlier this year, there's usually some sustainment in those moves. Yep.
And I honestly love on Friday, you got within 50% of that pivot high from February to 1765, and it just flat out rejected it. I think people just love those types of moments where they're like, well, couldn't take out a pivot, I'm gonna buy some puts, right?
Well, we were talking about you know, market leaders previously and how the market changed at the beginning of the year, late last year, early this year. And you always want to see semis leading if you're a bull, because that means everything's clicking. And, semis did that, fail and retest the 50, back in December, right? October, November, December, all trouble with the 50s. And now look where semis are at. So I think, if you're a bull, that's the type of music that you want to hear. And then you look at a Tesla, right? That's, I don't ever want to call Tesla a laggard, but it hasn't had the move that a lot of the big mega cap names have had. Now, granted, it did go from 100 up to 200, but that's not a typical Tesla move, right? A typical Tesla move is more of the things like NVDA has just done. So I think there's some juice in that one still to squeeze. Just my personal take
Yeah.
from looking at the chart.
And it's somewhat similar to like the 2019 area, right? Like it's I
Yeah,
like it. I like it in terms of what it's showing. Dude, at any point in time, you can look at it and it's possible that it could fail. Price does fail. I'm not saying it doesn't, but the chart right now is telling you that this one's higher. And if it doesn't,
I mean, they're not identical, but this looks a lot like what's going on right now. They're not identical, but they look pretty close.
I think to back to like our beginning discussion for GP and I think the camp that GP and I are in, I think is almost where like we're in a almost a lockout phase where the corrections are going to be super shallow, maybe into the 20-day.
Yeah.
If you're correct, it's kind of what is just generally what I was about going to say. I totally lost my train of thought there. Actually,
No, Nick, I'm not saying that we can't break out from the market's coming back to what we were originally talking about to start the show, right? Yeah. I don't think that we can't break out higher. I just think that this month we probably need to catch our legs a little bit to have that rest of the forceful way up. I don't think we're going below 38.90. That's not what I'm saying at all. I don't think we fail and make new lows or anything.
No. Yeah, I wasn't saying, I wasn't implying. Yeah, for sure.
So I just think it's going to be hard to get over a particular level over the next 26 days, but I could be wrong, and I'm okay. If I'm wrong, it's fine. If I only get a shallow pullback to buy and it works out to what you guys are saying, I'm happy with that too. I can put some money back to work. It's not that big of a deal.
I mean, those shallow dips, I think, are where a lot of like 3-week tights form. So, I mean, even if we did had kind of a choppy month, I think all the bulls would be just as happy to see it.
Yeah.
Except for those that maybe have 1 foot out the door and aren't really trusting this.
All right, we got about 10 minutes. We've had a really jam-packed show, which I love, but we got some other charts I want to get into MGNI from the crowd. I mean, it looks, from my perspective, the chart looks pretty good. It's been in a house of pain for so long, but now, I mean, if you go back to November, you're kind of flagging above the EMAs now. I don't know. What's your guys' take on MGNI?
Nick, you can go first. I've talked a lot.
Yeah, I like it. The bar that I would have been watching for, it's already taken out its high. So like the February 23rd, 23rd bar was a big volume bar, and then kind of same thing with the bars back in November. It's just kind of starting to break out. I mean, it just broke out on Thursday. Saw some follow through on Friday. So
Yep.
I think it looks good.
I think this, along with so many names, Home Depot, Boeing, whatever, right, are doing what we wanted to kind of see in 2020, which was base.
Yeah.
When it got to that level, but it just went straight bananas. That's what QE does, right? especially when it's infinity. So what you've seen over the last year in MGNI, and you can see it across a lot of names, is they all came back to their 2020 kind of breakout moves, and they basically based for 8 months, 12 months, whatever the time frame has been. And MGNI is one of those that look like they've been accumulating in that base. So accumulation in that base when it's retesting usually should mean higher in the longer term. The question whether it goes much higher in the next 2 weeks, I don't know about that stuff. But I think you have bases forming at the breakouts from 2020. This is incredibly constructive price action across the board, not just MGNI,
Yep.
but MGNI, same thing.
Yep.
Right. What are other questions we have?
Shop GP. I know it's one you've had an eye on and have liked for
Yeah.
some time.
And
To
4
me,
weeks of
again,
straight selling.
yeah. I mean, you've had these monster moves, 4 weeks of selling, but still you're above those EMAs. So again, you gotta have some consolidation to make the porridge just right.
What does that look like to
Yeah.
you? Does it look like you're about to hold a big cup of coffee? Because that's what it looks like to me.
Looks like a big
it looks like it's
old
about right.
cup. Yep.
Yeah.
So
Rubber band's getting pulled back.
they're letting the Bollinger Bands, the Keltner. Why am I struggling here? Anyway, the bands are starting to expand. I think the fact that it's been so tight for 4 weeks, wicks on the upside, wicks on the downside.
Yeah.
In the cloud, it's
In
gonna
the
punch
cloud,
through.
passing the flat cloud now. It's waiting for the trigger to make it go higher. Maybe it's a piece of news, maybe it's a partnership. I don't know, but this is constructive once again.
AMD, another name that's run really hot. I love Lisa Su. I love AMD. Big moves for the past month, basically. I mean, you had this FU candle and did nothing but rip. Last week was a little red, as we see. But hey, I mean, you're up 50% in a month's time. It's hard to complain about a 7% decline.
I'd love to see just kind of a slow grind down to like the lower 1 teens. If the semis decide to pause.
What if Intel starts to eat AMD's lunch?
Here we go. Here we go. We're really going to fight, aren't we? We are really going to tussle.
No.
I like the conviction you had in that trade on Intel. You just got out. Like I took my gains on some leaps. I just got out.
I didn't take gains on leaps. I took gains on weekly calls.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
still
All
holding
right,
it.
weekly. All right. My bad.
Yeah, man. Those I bought 31 calls. It popped like 400, 500%. I'm not sitting around to figure out what's going to happen next. I'm taking those and running.
Okay, all right. Weeklies, yes. Get out.
Yeah.
I thought you were referring to those leaps that you were talking about. I was like, yeah, that's some confidence in your thesis there, GP. Get out of your leaps in the same week.
I haven't sold a single leap. I actually added July calls. A little bit more confirmation. I'll be adding 2025 leaps as well.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
We had the discussion last week about Intel and how you think Intel will outperform this year, because it's still way below everything else that has already run, NVIDIA, AMD, etc. So I'm not saying that you're wrong, but to go out and say that Intel is going to start eating AMD and Lisa Su's lunch, that is yet to be seen, my friend.
Agreed. I was actually reading an article. I don't read a lot of articles, but I was reading an article on how that might be the case. It was quite funny because we had just had this conversation last week. I'm like, oh, interesting.
Send me that article.
I will if I can find it. It gets lost in the Twitterverse, but I will send you that article. I think it's interesting to see the leader, NVIDIA, and Jensen, who's been there for 30 years, get accused of pump and dumps, but he's the master of switching to what industry needs, what he develops, right? So it's really awesome to kind of see that. But he talked about Intel's new chip structure and how it's got a lot of promising stuff in aspects of AI. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because all these years Intel has lagged, right? For
Yep.
whatever many reasons.
Yep.
For the leader to
Big
come
player
out.
holds a big position in the SMH, but a laggard compared to its peers. Yes.
Yeah. So I thought it was interesting that the leader of the biggest semiconductor company was praising Intel, right? At a point, like, it was a surprise to me. I just wasn't expecting it.
On holding. Nick, you have any take on or GP? I know nothing about it other than they make shoes that Roger Federer wears.
Yeah, I mean, better setups out there. I know it's I know a lot of like the growth traders have been all over it, but it's under the 50-day, under the 10-week. It is at, if I could get it like closer to like 23, 24, if you know, that's kind of where it broke out of the weekly range. But I don't know, it's also kind of
that'd
at
be a gap
it's also at
fill,
the
but-
gap too. So
Yeah,
Say that again?
that would be down into that gap. So I don't know if you want
Yeah.
that. Right?
It's a
No, I-
grinder. Oh, on, not just on, right? Not
Yeah,
on.
not
semi.
on semi, on.
New IPO. It's less than 2 years old or 3 years old. There's a lot more. There's one accumulation bar and mostly sell bars right on this weekly. So I don't do IPOs that are not like at least 3 years for the most part. I rather catch.
Our good friend Pratt says Redfin. I know this is the name we've talked
that
about.
looks great. I like it.
Yeah.
I like the daily. Let me pull up the weekly.
Weekly.
I actually think
capped by the
I actually
50.
own it in my Robinhood account.
Yeah, it looks. I mean, it looks pretty good, honestly.
Yep, I like Redfin, but once again, it doesn't move in the same way.
Yeah.
Accumulate and sell in batches, right?
I'm not in it, so like I might not buy until it breaks above that high of like 1160 if I were to buy. But I think it looks good if you're long, and Pratt, I think you are. Coin, we've talked extensively about coin. GP loves it. I like it. I'm gonna get my $70. I'm telling you that right now.
It did a 3-week tight and then put in a 20% move,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
What more can you ask for in a week, right? So
Yep.
64 to from 57 is a $7 move. So
Yep. It's going to give me my $70 soon.
Yeah.
I'd love it up to that 50, that 77. But I'll probably take some off somewhere in the 70s. That's just me. But I think ultimately it resolves higher. But this is a trade for me. And Hut, that's a miner, a digital miner. I think we must have talked
it's
about
pretty
this
good.
one. I got a line on there. Yeah.
I talked about it last week. There's a lot of accumulation in this. I was actually doing a little bit more research. So all they do is mine Bitcoin. So part of me is like, the chart looks good, but I'm not sure what their game plan is to make a lot more money, right? So they might, I think I was reading through one of their earnings reports, and I haven't read anything for Hut in fundamentals perspective. And so they mined 475 Bitcoins last quarter, and they sold 421 of them. So they kept, and they hold like 9,133, so about 247 million in Bitcoin as a position on their balance sheet, based on 27,000, and their whole market cap is 440. So Bitcoin goes higher, Hut goes higher. Bitcoin doesn't go anywhere. It's tied to Bitcoin, so it's like, I don't know. Maybe this is not the right play for me, but I like the chart, so I'm trying to stay long, but I shouldn't have read what I read.
What was another miner? I don't keep up with the crypto miners, but there was another one that.
Mara, Riot.
Mara and Riot.
Yeah, that's the two. I knew you guys would have it. Yeah, I don't think they look bad. I really don't. I know we talked about them a few weeks ago, but they look pretty decent. Pretty decent.
Them not
It
breaking
is.
down is
They are not breaking down. And Bitcoin is just hovering at 27, just doing its thing. Last request, Pin Entertainment.
This has to be Pratt's portfolio.
No, this is Eswar's.
Okay.
Has been in a house of pain. It really has been in a house of pain. But from a TA perspective, give me like above that 20. Give me 29. And I think it's not a bad weekly setup. Not my cup of tea. I haven't traded it, but from a technical aspect, I kind of would be interested around that 20 EMA. So close to $29 as a new position.
Yeah, I prefer the LVS chart over Pen.
Or DKNG.
Yeah.
Drunken Kings,
Yeah.
DraftKings. Yeah, DraftKings has been on a rip and roaring show. What's some other casinos? Win.
MGM.
Win doesn't look great, actually.
No, LVS looks better.
MGM.
I mean, in a strong market, I could see. I mean, Penn's climbing back into that 25 to like 40 range, so like it could head back towards the high end of that range. If
in
we
fairness,
continue
like
to
this
rally.
has been a base for a while in this name around this level.
Yeah.
So,
But if Penn heads back to the high end of that range, DraftKings is going back to all-time highs. Like it's going back.
yeah,
to
you're
50.
probably right about that. You're probably right about that. We don't have time to do things you like and don't like, so just give me one from each of you.
DXCM.
Dexcom, you like?
Yeah.
Looks
I like
pretty solid.
I just like the range. The daily range.
Yeah. The daily range.
Yeah, that 122 to about 100. So
It's on the
measured
north
moves puts
side
it
of
back at
everything
it
you
like
like to see. Yeah. Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah.
GP?
Like a longer term chart, like is Guild.
ooh,
Gilead?
all right.
Way
Oh,
to
yeah.
back.
It is flagging on the monthly. It's got the FU candle on the monthly. It is at the top part of its range in a flag. This screams buy some leaps to me, like 2025, not 2024. But I'm waiting for this on a long-term, on a longer chart perspective here. For shorter term, I really like Intel.
Yeah, we know. We know. We know. We know.
But Tesla, right? You can't beat Tesla setup at this point.
No, we all
but-
agree. We all like Tesla.
Yeah.
So we didn't talk about Netflix, which I'm really happy about.
I was going to mention it, but I tried not to.
I'm gonna go bottom fishing, and I'm gonna say Target has just been under an excruciating amount of pressure since earnings, but I kind of like it. If it can, it already bounced off what was the low last week, 126, which is basically this range right here. If I can draw a line, it's basically that. That was pretty sharp. So I want to see if it can stay treading water in the 130s, and if it can, I might do a little shopping, because again, I know how much Mrs. Baggs spends the bag's family fortune at Target. So
Yep.
I've done well in the past buying names that she is all in all the time. So Target's been on my shopping list for some time, and I think I might go bottom fishing and take a stab soon.
Yeah, well, I did this week.
Oh, you bought some Target.
I traded it because I still
Okay,
want.
all right.
I wanted to bounce here and then come back and retest, right? So,
Yeah.
if I want to buy longer term, I don't want to buy here. I want to wait for the bit because the volume was a little bit on the light side for me on the bounce. It was a perfect bounce. It was that I was out the same day. I didn't wait. Yeah, I didn't even wait to. I got to my level. I was like,
Another painful name, Disney. I mean, it held off the mid 80s there, which was good. So still holding on by its teeth there. So another name on the bottom fishing scale of things that I kind of like. I
so
think
like 110. I can see the move to 110.
Yeah. I mean, this is a trade. This isn't a hold forever in Disney. Target, on the other hand, like anywhere up in, I don't know, up in like the high 140s would be great money, I think.
Yeah.
All right. That's like 15%. So yeah, I'll be happy with that and smell you later. You know what I mean?
I think so. Just this is completely anecdotal, bags. I have over the last couple of years, I've noticed a lot of Targets remodeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the last couple of times I've actually walked into Targets over the last couple of weeks, almost every single one has been fully remodeled now.
Yep.
So, it's anecdotal, but it lends to the fact that it could potentially be on the verge of. They finished their kind of shift to the more modern culture that this starts to perform better.
So in Colorado, when we were there last year, all of our Targets in Colorado were new. They were all awesome.
Yeah.
And we moved to Georgia, and the Targets were more similar to Kmart. If anybody remembers Kmart.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they have been remodeled. Many of the Targets that are in our area have been undergoing remodeling to get them out of the Kmart style, more similar to what we were experiencing in Colorado. So it's a much better experience being in the store. But it also shows that they're putting money into the businesses, right? Which as an investor or a trader, you can take advantage of, in my opinion.
Yep. I thought Target would hit the 90 level. So that's still in the back of my mind, but I did notice that remodeling getting finished, and like I used to walk into the Targets and half of it was under construction. I'm like, I can't shop here, right? Like I get what I need and I'm out. So
yeah.
Now
and if it fails
peruse.
this 125, 26 area, 90 is the next most likely level. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Anyway, hey guys, love you too. Appreciate you taking the time out of your busy personal schedules to do this every week. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. Please like, comment, subscribe. It greatly helps us. You can't believe what it means to us to see you guys mash those buttons every week. We appreciate it. And thanks to everyone for being here again. So with that, great. We wish you great success this week in your trades or your investments. We hope we were able to shine a little bit of light and help everyone out just a little bit. It's not investment advice. It's just what three schmucks and three schmoes like us see. But we appreciate it. And with that, we will see you next week.